All right, y'all. We are live,
Yeah.
live, live again. We are here with one of my favorite people, one of the smartest people that I know. We didn't get to do an official intro because we had some little technical issues earlier. Would you like to just tell us who you are and what does this concept of leaving a legacy and living your legacy, what does that mean to you and why is that so important?
So I'm Bernie Walker. I'm the founder and president of the Renee Group, right, which is a consulting organization looking to transform society. I, the main focus is what I call the circular equity economy transformation, meaning that we are able to live within harmony with the environment and that it includes us with social justice and economic justice.
I love
So
it.
living powerfully. Um, it means for us to be able to unapologetically shine our light. And I think you made a reference to one of the points from Iyanla Van Zant's book about not feeling guilty for putting ourselves first.
Mm.
And I can give some concrete areas in the area of housing, right? Um, when we talk about whether it's the power focus, Jack Canfield, uh, knowing your purpose, and having the discipline and having a mastermind alliance, and then even talking about the miseducation of the Negro. Um, we went on the wrong track when our main purpose of educating our children and our folks was not was other than making sure that we had affordable housing,
Mm.
when it was other than making sure that we had safe, nutritious food that was affordable and available and accessible to all of us. When we let someone else uh, be responsible for our health care, right? Um, and when we expected someone else to step up and and prevent Black children from
Mm.
being left stranded in foster care,
Mm.
right? That is the heart of the matter. So we don't have to, as they say, speak politics. We can have actual praxis of the strength to love.
Mm. Wow.
Because if we really, really loved each other as we claim we do every Sunday or Saturday at the
Mhm.
mosque or church or wherever, if you're a person of faith, or if you're not into organized religion, but you think that you are a good person and you're spiritual, right? Our circular equity economy transformation demands that every thought, word, feeling, and deed contributes to improving our quality of life,
Mm.
right? In there are no excuses, right, for us having um, Black boys going to prison,
Mm.
right? Because where we left off in the last few minutes of our earlier conversation, recently I went to the library and I checked out a book that it was more of a pictorial, but with words of the Black Panther Party. And yeah, we know about the defense with guns and so forth. And yeah, that's another conversation that we can have. I'll just say that there was justification of that because of police brutality and the constant murder of Black men and women throughout the country, right? And even to this day, when you look at George Floyd and Sandra Bland, Murad Aubrey, we're still addressing the issue. But let me put that on the parking lot. and focus on the other I Love You programs that the Black youth of the 60s, hearing the prayers and the sacrifices of their mothers and
Mm.
grandmothers and granddaddies, they stood up and created a free breakfast program to ensure our children were fed. They stood up and created a free lunch program to ensure that our children didn't go hungry. They created free clinics for sickle cell and other health issues. They created clinics for Black pregnant women and children to improve their quality of life. They were the manifestation of answered prayers. And
Mm.
we let the devil and J. Edgar Hoover and these different police groups or whatever kill over 39, I think it was 39 people were assassinated.
Mm.
Many people were under trial. What is my point? My point is they address the issues that we need to address. If you're a Christian, if you're a Muslim, if you're Buddhist, if you are a human being that claims that you truly live on the principle of love your neighbor,
Mm.
these children, these young people stood up. They practiced every day the Good Samaritan.
Mm.
And we allowed someone, groups, terrorists, to, to end that. So, what am I saying? How does this relate to this? Our housing is our number one business. Yes, it'd be nice to work for the corporation, but guess what? They have failed us. If we don't have affordable housing, that's a good business to be in. The miseducation of the Negro, right? Foster children. And we know that that is a result of drugs and violence. To be the peacekeepers in our community, that is the best social welfare company and innovation that we can offer. So when we play to win, we would give 100% of our time, our energy, our attention, resources, and commitment to the goal. The number one goal, instead of, I was out the country for 8 years in Ghana, and I came back. So I missed this whole Kevin Samuels thing, right? So I have a lot of, what do you call it, Rip Van Winkle experiences. Like, is this a big thing? I mean, a friend of mine also, when I went to the USC homecoming in November, a sister friend of mine, Sandra Evans Manley, has for the last 30 some odd years has been having the Black Short Film Festival in LA. And one of the short films was about this whole Kevin Samuels and this Black women, Black men thing. Um, our business is not that. One of our main businesses is speaking about and making sure we are aware that Black maternal mortality and Black infant mortality is 2, 3, 4 times higher than white mortality and is as high as the third world country. And what's more telling is that it doesn't matter the income. Your MBA, your PhD will not prevent Black women and their children from dying at higher rates. than other folks. So what does this mean to our conversation? That is job one. That is social entrepreneurship job number one. That is transformation, technology, innovation, entrepreneurship focus number one. We can agree on that, right? We can
You're
agree.
what I love about what you're saying is you just did a deep dive on your why,
Hmm.
like the why. Like when you say you are passionate about these topics, you can talk about living powerfully all day, but I love what you said about context versus like being able to bring in the deeper context to like who you're hoping to influence and why this is important to you. So I appreciate that
Okay.
that
Yeah,
depth.
it should touch you.
Right.
You should feel it
It's hard.
right here.
It's a heart. It's definitely a heart a tug on the
And
heart for sure.
they can come together.
Mm-hmm.
That is where our basic conversation should be. How are we going to save our babies?
Mm. Do you have children, Bernard?
No, I don't have any physical ones yet.
I don't have any either, but I think the two of us are still deeply focused on leaving a legacy. Like we want to make sure we are leaving. I didn't mean that, I meant that in a good way. Like you don't have to have your own children to be like, I
Right.
claim all
No,
of my
I have
babies.
spiritual children for
Right?
sure.
Exactly. We claiming the babies of the
Yeah.
universe, right? We're basically saying we want to leave a legacy. When it's not for our offspring, we're saying, you know, he feels a deep responsibility for young people, right? And I just think that's such a beautiful thing. When I introduced you, I said you were founding president of the Seattle
Seattle,
chapter,
Portland.
Seattle Portland chapter, thank you, of the National Black MBA Association. And that was for you. It was all about leaving. I mean, it was about being present in the moment, but you also, there was a legacy building to that. I mean, we're still here. We're still here. So talk a little bit about legacy building and living a legacy. Um, we'll do that first, and then I'm going to go into those three books that you talked about. And we're just going to start with the last one that you were talking about. But let's focus first on this concept of living a legacy. Like you show up and you're making sure that there's something left behind, something for others. Why is that so important?
So, so we have the ability to leave institutions behind,
Say
right?
that again.
So we all have the ability to leave institutions behind, a legacy of
Mhm.
of healing the wounds that we have because we are still going through trauma. Um, and it was one of those situations when I came back and I had gone to one of the meetings and a person was talking about the trauma of slavery and so forth. Um, and I recognized that. Um, and we are in different stages of recovery, right? Some people can take a hit
Right.
and pivot,
Yeah.
right? And some people want that one hit that I might be able to pivot from might break somebody else's jaw, right? And not only that, they might fall and then they might hurt their hip or other things. And why do I say that? Because sometimes we get in conversations about, oh, well, that happened to me, but I shook it off, right? Um, good for you. Sometimes, and my younger brother even had mentioned in one situation that when I came back, I'm a vet, and I access some vet services, and he had mentioned that, yeah, I've seen some people who have from his perspective, he felt that they had gone through less challenges, but
Mm-hmm.
were impacted more,
Mm.
right? Um, and you know, those who can tell? But the thing is, um, we need to listen and have the ability to have the empathy to
Right.
recognize
Empathy.
that um, that we're at different
Place.
capabilities and
Right.
stages and how to be able to support folks or help provide resources to people that maybe we may not be the best person
Mm.
to help that person, you
Right.
know, but to find our place. And so I'm hoping I'm not drifting from your point, but the point is that there are many needs that our people and others need as we make our way on this path
Right.
of life. And we, you know, as the song says, if I can help somebody, then my living, right, won't be in vain. So
Right.
I remember folks singing that in church, right? Um, and um, sometimes it's easier to sing it than actually to be it
Mm.
and to give it.
Right. If I can
So
help
this is
somebody, you're
why
right.
it's important to create. There's the individual, there's the team, there's the organization, there's the network. This is why we create a community because
Right.
no one of us is as smart as all of us, and no one of us can do everything, but we can
Right.
all do something.
I love it. I love it. Thank you for that. And I'm glad we got to kind of circle back and give you some time to really introduce the topics that were important to you. Like I said, we had some technical issues earlier, but I appreciate you being you and showing up in this way. It's so beautiful. Now, I did want to circle back to you were talking about a book, one of your favorite books, a book that you said you've leveraged over an extended period of time. Um, and it was Iyanla Van Zant's book, um, Spirit of a Man. And, you know, they call it a love letter, right? A spiritual guide to reclaiming your identity, your power, and your legacy. Um, there were three key takeaways. It says Black men carry deep unspoken wounds, and healing begins with truth telling. The second takeaway was spirituality and inner reflection are essential to transformation. And the third was forgiveness of yourself and others is a core pathway to freedom. When you hear those takeaways, what are your thoughts? How has that impacted you? And any lessons learned if you're thinking about the next generation? And if you're like, hey, I haven't read this book, but here's some takeaways, here's some lessons learned. How has that impacted you? And how would you like to amplify those message points?
Um, so I think that, well, I guess the first one you mentioned was forgiveness, right? And that there's a need for healing. Um, and so some years ago, I did take an introductory course.
Oh,
What
sorry.
was it called? Um, yeah, it's escaping me, but there's a group that provides a training that allows for some reflection on
Yeah.
how it is that we think. You know, the always on conversation that's
Hmm.
where our mind works. We're always saying something to ourselves, and we may not know what we are saying, right? And that connects with, I guess, another author. Sorry, I'll add to one, Reverend Ike, who was one of the persons that brought what he calls the positive Black self-image psychology. Um, that we are always affirming something, and that the
Right.
way humans operate, we visualize, um, we affirm, and then we manifest. So if you are unconscious to that, then you may have received some information, um, to use Napoleon Hill's term, because we're always transmitting and receiving. And the society is transmitting a lot of information. And it's been proven that there's a lot of negative information, unfortunately, about who Black people are, right? Uh, and if we affirm negative things like, oh, I'm so stupid, I'm so tired, I'm whatever negative kind of thought that a person can suggest to themselves, well, it will ultimately chip away at you. Mentally, you will suffer from fatigue, and your ability to achieve your goals in life will suffer because you are twice defeated, right? Because, like the old saying, um, the man or woman can is the one that says they can. That's Kipling's, I think, if, right? Um, and it's important for us to know how to develop our own practice of the affirmations we want to affirm about ourselves. For instance, my affirmations are, success, achievement, accomplishment, overcoming, conquering, mastering. I have prosperity, power, with courage, calmness. And it goes on with others, but the point is that we have to know how to forgive ourselves, um, and um, affirm what it is that we want. So
Mm,
we
I
need
love
to,
that, Bernard.
um, have our own, power to choose and be aware we have the power to choose what our mission is, what our purpose in life is. And
Wow.
then to, organize our time, our talent, our treasure, our teams, our technology, and thoughts to transform. So,
That. Yes. I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. That's beautiful. We were talking earlier about playing to win. I'm just going to get to the specifics. We said you were focusing on the Iyanla Vanzant's book, Spirit of Man, and she says, playing to win is not about competition, but about alignment, truth, and intention. This is a book that you said you read and you've been living by for 30 years. Tell us more about what it means to play to win when it's not about beating someone else, but it's about overcoming yourself. I think that's so powerful.
well, as is often said in some places, sometimes in church, so that we're not humans having a spiritual experience, but we're spirits having a human experience,
Right.
right? So, um, we really can choose to, accept that we have a meaningful life. We can live a meaningful life. Um, and but we need to understand what is our thing. I mean, I think there's a book called Magnificent Obsession. we can be, we can have a magnificent obsession. You don't just have to be having a obsession with making money or fame or fortune. Um, we can help, we can serve a higher purpose. And to use George Frazier's term, we can do good and do well at the same time. Excuse me. So, um, Ayanna Van Zant's book really attempted to address the breach that we have between relationships between the black man and black woman primarily,
Mm.
um, as extensions of the I guess greater society. Um, that is our, I guess, number one work is to um, have positive relationships between black men and women. And how do we do that?
Mm.
Excuse me, I didn't bring water, but um,
I love
food,
that.
clothing, and shelter are some of the very basic items that we all need. So, how do we become a part of God's earth and the fullness thereof to make
Mm.
sure that we don't live in lack? That's amazing. That's a potential business model. I think that we can work on. That to me that's a
I love it.
fun, loving, um, passionate enterprise that we can engage in. I
Okay, now
love
stay with me. Stay with me here. 'Cause we're going to talk about these 5 bullet points under where Iyanla Van Zant, her framework, or her, she said it's, playing to win is a mindset and it's a life strategy. I'm going to ask you to talk about these 5 bullets and just tell me what it means to you. So the first one she says is choosing yourself without guilt. When you see that, what does that mean to you? Choosing yourself without guilt.
so that means believing that we have value. I have value,
Mm.
right? I can be humble as well as competent and capable of choosing my um, service um, for the greater good. So for me, um, one of the main areas I think I mentioned was creating an ecosystem that
Hmm.
supports the training and development of Black youth, and it could be intergenerational. In fact, it is intergenerational because there is a role for mentorship, there's a role for coaching, there's a role for advising, because all of our tides should be in the area of nurturing our children,
Got
right?
it.
Um, and there's roles for seniors and so forth. So food, clothing, shelter, nutrition, health, communication, networking. In order for this to be streamed, we can train young people in networking. I've recently got my cybersecurity certification. Um, um, and these are businesses that need protection. If we don't
Mm.
want somebody to hack this event, right, then we need to raise up some Black boys and girls, right, to know how to provide cybersecurity, networking, and make sure that their people are practicing these protocols. If we don't want our seniors who are in the process of retiring, right, to be scammed by someone online, then they need to be trained and become a digital um,
Mm.
literate of how to
I love it.
not expose themselves. So those are all things that can be fun, right?
I love
Because
it.
there are jobs in all those areas. So
I love it. Choosing yourself first without guilt is her first part of this life strategy of playing to win. Number two, she said setting boundaries that protect your peace. Is that something that you do? What are your thoughts about that one? Setting boundaries that protect your peace. If you had to break it down to a fifth grader, what was that? Fifth grade level, what does that mean to you?
So don't get up in a whole lot of mess, as Granny would say. Um, know which conversations to be in. I I call television back in the day um, the stranger in the house,
Mm,
as well as the one-eye God, right?
mm,
So now, because we have these phones, we can take around this stranger and click on it because it's in our hand. Because
mm-hmm.
they don't have to knock on the door, we
Right.
let a whole lot of people into our heads that don't deserve to be there.
Say it again. Say that part again.
So we let too many people, just because it's on TikTok, right? Doesn't mean you need to be watching it, doesn't mean you need to be sharing. You need to know how to say no. So
He
what's her
said
name is
setting boundaries to
uh
protect your peace. He just said because it's out there don't mean you have to be digesting it or watching it.
right.
That's deep.
So if some foolishness shows up, why are you going to share it like a virus? Did you see this crazy stuff? No, I didn't. And I don't even want to talk about it. Click.
Right, right. So
So
protecting your peace.
we need to know what is of value.
Mm, I
So
love
go to
that.
the next one, I guess. So
I love it. The next one is facing the truth with courage, even when it hurts. That's part of playing to win. The Iyanla Vanzant's framework. First one was choosing yourself without guilt. The second one was setting boundaries that protect your peace. And you brought in the social media and the phone. I love that. The third element is facing the truth with courage, even when it hurts.
let's talk about Black foster children, right? So how do how are the many ways that Black children enter into foster care? There is our gang violence, there is drug addiction, there is the school to incarceration pipeline,
School to prison
right?
pipeline.
That
Yep.
results in foster care,
Mm,
right? And we have to look at ourselves because we go to church. Um, and I have been a real estate person, and I'm not claiming that all people are who have um, or senior care business for that matter, or disabled care business, right, are doing it just for the money. But I do know that there is a segment because of where we are of this wealth gap
mm-hmm.
who create these businesses for the paycheck,
Mm.
right?
So you're talking about people that
And I
basically.
understand there is a need. I'm saying that we can be conscious, transformational change leaders
Mm,
and address this issue with the best mental health, the best education, resources
I told y'all he was
to
deep.
rescue these children
I
and
told y'all he
help
was deep,
them,
right?
huh? And
I said I
help
told y'all he
them
was deep because you're going deep. You're like
to
saying,
the stone that was rejected is the cornerstone of our liberation. The stones, the Black children's stones that are rejected are the cornerstones of our beloved community.
mm. I told y'all he was
But
deep.
how are we showing up? So tell me that point again. You said challenge
That's deep.
something
You
even when
you
it's
nailed it. I
difficult.
said facing the truth with courage, even when it hurts. I never expect you to go as deep as you always go, but I ain't even mad at you. Facing the truth with courage, even when it hurts. Now you just went straight for the jugular right there. You were like, in case you didn't know, there are
Okay,
needs.
next
There are
question.
needs in community, even when it hurts. How many of us sit
Hey,
back comfortable, not creating a space in their homes and their lives for help the
well, did
needs?
he ask Peter? Was it Peter? He asked, "Lovest thou with me? Do you love me?
Wow.
Feed my sheep.
Wow.
Give my black foster kids a safe, secure,
Yeah.
loving home with resources
Is
and
this man
security."
deep or what? I said that this is how we're talking about living powerfully. We're talking about playing to win, playing the game of life to win. There's another book, Miss Catherine gave me a book called Playing the Game of Life to Win. I'm gonna have to, we're gonna pull that book up another time. This is just a chapter in Iyanla Vanzant's book called Play to Win, but there's a book called Playing the Game of Life to Win. But anyway, we'll keep moving. Facing the truth with courage, even when it hurts. So he went to, wow, he went right to it. Like, are we doing all that we can do? That hurts. That's deep. I love it. So thank you. There's 2 more points under Iyanla Vanzant's framework for playing to win, this mindset, this life strategy. We said number 1 was choosing yourself first without guilt. Number 2 was setting boundaries that protect your peace. And you went to watch out for this thing right here and what you let in. Number 3 was facing the truth with courage, even when it hurts. Like, are we doing enough? Wow, for the young ones. And number 4 is living in alignment with your soul's assignment. That's back to being on purpose. Tell us about that one. What are your thoughts about that one?
So, quiet time is important. So, when you have all of this stuff, you don't know for sure who you are and where you're going. I remember when I switched my major from computer science to international relations, and the professor Lowenthal was talking about an event that had happened in the White House, and one of the officials, it was an emergency, and I'm skipping the years so that people don't focus on the year that it happened. But at the end of the day, excuse me, he said, "Don't just do something, stand there.
Don't just do something, do what?
Don't just do something, stand there."
Stand there.
Right. You
Mm.
know, kind of like old classic 1960s, Sly and the Family Stone. Stand, you know, there's a midget standing tall, right? Stand, or, my soul is anchored in the Lord,
I can
stand,
always depend on you to bring song into
you've done all
your
that you can do.
declaration. Yeah,
Sometimes you have to stand. So I think
yeah.
that um, relation to this, um,
Yeah, living in alignment with your soul's purpose, being on purpose, your soul's
you
assignment.
you need to be still in
Mm.
order to really reflect on what is your purpose.
Wow.
And to me, uh, my alignment is, as I called it, so this Ellen MacArthur Foundation started this circular economy transition movement, this the linear economy. We take something from the earth, we drink like in the bottles, and then we put it in the landfill,
Mm-hmm.
right? And when I was in Ghana, because many Ghanaians really like to believe that they're good Christians and so forth. And so in talking about this
Mm-hmm.
circular economy, I would ask, what day did God create waste?
Mm.
And then sometimes initially they were like, oh, well, where in the scripture did that? No, there is no waste in God's universe.
Mm.
We are not wasteful. We are not disposable human beings, right?
Mm.
the resources that we have. They were resources, and they're still resources after we use it. It's not waste. It
Wow.
is just a thoughtless economy, a
Wow.
lazy thinking, a lazy unthinking economy that doesn't figure out what is the next best use for this resource, right? So now we have landfills because we were too lazy. So being still to figure out what our purpose is it's important, and then sharing it with each other
Mm.
in our stillness. It's not about me. I have enough truth to contribute to someone else's truth in finding their purpose. I found my purpose because I listened to others. We were asked, as they say, seek and find, ask and it shall be given, knock and the
Mm.
door shall be open.
Wow.
So
Wow. Wow. You don't get lightweight answers from you, do you? You don't do lightweight. You go deep. Okay, here's the last bullet under this concept of Iyanla Vanzant's description of playing to win, this framework, this mindset, this life strategy. Number one was choosing yourself first without guilt. Number two was setting boundaries that protect your peace. Number three was facing the truth with courage, even when it hurts. Number four was living in alignment with your soul's assignment or your purpose. And the fifth one, the fifth bullet is mastering your emotions instead of letting them master you. Whoa, I know you got something to say on that one. Mastering
years
your
ago, I
emotions.
remember in LA listening to a radio station, KCRW, and I think it was Carl Nelson who was um, doing the show. And I think it was somebody Myers, Linda Myers. I think it was Linda Myers. And she was talking about this whole mental health piece and about s- helping people to know that they didn't have to react a certain way. And then the person says, well, that person, they made me mad. So that's why I had to go off on them. They made me mad. I said, no, no, Dr. Myers said, no, 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 no. That person demonstrated a particular behavior and you chose to become angry because of what that person said or did. You
Mm,
didn't, that didn't person didn't make you mad. You
right.
chose to be mad.
Say it again.
You have the power to choose. Like they say, um, it's not what they called you, it's what you answered to.
Wow. I love that. I love that. That is so powerful. We got a few more bullets. You got a couple more minutes.
Yeah,
You got a couple more.
I got
So
a
we're
couple
looking
more.
at that same document. You said this is the book that you've read and has held deep for you for 30 years. And now that I've done my little bit of research, I can see why. Right. So she talks about winning. You talk about 4 ways to play to win, right? And you're saying, we talk about living powerfully. That's winning. That's playing to win. But she talks about traditional winning to Iyanla's playing to win. There's like a side to side comparison. I want to talk about that. So traditional winning, she says, is competing with others. Her playing to win is competing with your old self, just your old self. It's about your inner work. Thoughts on that one?
Well, I'm pretty sure it was in this book that I've read several books. So I'm I'm going to answer the question on Iyanla Vanzant books by, I believe it was this book
The power
that,
of focus.
actually, you know what? Well, either it's this book or it might have been my other book that I like, which is Beyond Change Management. And that was, well, anyway, so the story is there was this track person, and I'm a runner. So this got my attention. It says he had a race against someone at this other school, and he lost against him. So he was looking for the rematch, and
Mm-hmm.
he is working and working on his speed. And so the race came, the guns goes off, and he's running, and he's watching the guy off the side of his eye. He got his eye, and he beat that guy, but he wasn't paying attention, and another person beat both of them.
Wow.
So, um,
He wasn't doing his personal best. He was
right,
looking back at somebody else.
looking at just beating that other guy, but not
Mm,
being the very, very best person of everybody that is in the race.
mm.
So I think that's important.
Wow,
Um,
that's deep. I love it. I love it. It's 8:06. I know I'm cutting into your bedtime. Shall we move on? Or shall we do I'll give you 3 points and then you can decide which one of these you want to I'll do the comparison so people get the full reflection of
okay.
why you brought this book forward. She said traditional winning again was competing with others. Her playing to win is competing with your old self. Traditional winning is proving you're right. She said playing to win is surrendering to the truth. I'll keep going. She said traditional winning is getting external rewards. Playing to win is claiming your internal peace. Traditional winning was looking powerful. Playing to win is actually living powerfully. And then traditional winning is hustling and forcing things to come to pass. And playing to win is really living in flow and flowing with divine timing. I'll put that into the chat as well. Tell me anything you want to add as we close for today, because I know I've this has just been
Right.
so juicy and so
So
deep.
sometimes, many times, um, just like DNA, we authors like Iyanla Van Zandt um, address issues that are basically timeless. And so she
Mm,
addressed it in her time. When I
mhm.
was living in Ghana, I explored that subject matter from a different or similar perspective, but a different person. It's a Catherine Dweck, I believe it is. And she's done a lot of talks on the
Carol
growth mindset
Carol
versus
Dweck.
Carol Dweck. Yeah, the
Yeah.
growth mindset versus fixed
Fixed.
mindset.
Mm-hmm.
And that speaks there because um, the fixed mindset has this idea that I already have a set level of capabilities and quite often is afraid of taking on new challenges because they're afraid um, and start at at a new level.
Mm.
So I think that hopefully you can still hear me.
I can hear
I
you
think
great.
that the growth mindset looks at everything as an opportunity
Yeah.
and doesn't fear failure because you just look at it at a new area that you are unfamiliar with as a new opportunity to explore another dimension of yourself.
I love it. I love that. I love that so much. Bernard, we could go on and on because like I said, you were deep beyond my wildest dreams. We're gonna ask people based on all the great stuff you've shared so far. We're gonna ask people just practice playing to win, right? Ayanla style is asking yourself questions like, am I in alignment with my truth today? All you can do is talk about today in this moment. Is this action? Bernard said we get to choose. Are you in alignment with the truth, with the self that you want to create, right? And then asking yourself about truth telling rituals, speaking the uncomfortable truth with love, especially to yourself, right? Releasing the mask. I love this one. Winning means no more pretending, right? Just be in your natural presence and be on purpose. She talks about honoring your inner child, right? What does your child need right now? Your inner child need to feel safe, to feel loved, and to feel free today. So being willing to do that work internally. And then her last one is radical self-forgiveness. So asking us to let go of the guilt, of the shame, of the pain, anything that you've been living, that you've been rehearsing, that you've been holding on to, let it go and like transform that into the opposite. So there's work for us to do. You didn't just show up with a few books. You showed up to say, here's how we literally play to win, how we live a life that is on purpose, how we live. I love that you said contributing to the life of others, those young people. So I just wanted to say thank you again, Bernard, for being such
thank you for inviting me.
Deep soul.
I wish you much success.
Well, we got more to come, y'all. More to come. We're going to be very intentional as we package these lessons learned. Very intentional, very tight. That's what we're going to be pulling together for you in over the next few months. I'm bringing others in, and we're going to continue to have these conversations. Like I said, Bernard has a special way of just going deep, identifying books that I probably wouldn't have even thought of. I wouldn't have thought of 3 of these books today had he not brought up Iyanla, The Power of Purpose, right? So I just wanted to say thank you for continuing to open up my perspective, and we will continue to bring you all works and insights that will be all about your transformation. So all I can say is
thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.